23 on the outside. And then you go down the street and down the 16th Street Mall at the one down at Lodo. And I'm like, why does the line stop at the vestibule and it doesn't go out? And so that's when, just looking at those, that you could just see the human nature of stuff, and how, like, if people feel like they're moving and flowing, then they'll line up for anything. If they feel like they're not moving, then they'll get pissed off, or the door is in the way, that sort of stuff. So all of those sort of subtle behind the scenes things that affect people are out there. But I know that's separate from what your question was.
No, it's actually no, that's great. I was just thinking as you were talking about that, for some reason I have this, I don't even know how I got it recorded. I think my wife must have recorded it for me, but I have a video of Steve on Power Lunch or whatever it was called when the IPO happened. And, I remember him talking about just wanting to get back to work and wanting to, it was just time to get back to work and wanted to take care of the guests. And, I think in those early days, we really strove to not let anything go to our heads. And I think that was really important for us. And I shared that video because it was such a great moment. Obviously a very different time now, but in those early days of all the success, we were working as hard every day as we did any other day. It just didn't matter. And I think culturally, that's what protected the integrity of what we had. And in every way. And when I think about all the different things that we did over the years, and that whole food with integrity. And I mean, you're right, Dan. I mean, I think about this all the time. We really did change the way the world thought about and ate fast food. We really did. And that is just magic. I mean, when you think about that.
Yeah.
And I love the Oscar Mayer story. I mean, that's just so great.
It's totally there. And didn't have people talking about that and big chains talking about it. And now, having clean ingredients is greens fees now. Like, you have to have that, right? And you go, that is a tectonic shift in 15, 20 years.
Right.
And I think that and have people asking about, where is this from? Now people are even more, where do you get this from? Where's this? And I think it really did change the world. Or at least in our country. The rest of the world actually was already doing it already.
Right. Absolutely. So speaking of food and speaking of what you like to eat, when you go out to eat, what is your go-to order? Like when you go to your hometown restaurant, your favorite hometown restaurant, like what's your go-to?
Well, I'm a small partner in a charcoal rotisserie chicken chain here in Denver called Chook.
Okay.
Which is Australian slang for what they have. That it's kind of a thing in Australia to have charcoal rotisserie chicken on every corner. Okay. I love going there. I'm obsessed with the food, and it's just amazing. And I go there 3 times a week.
That's awesome. I'll have to try it when I'm in Denver next. That's
amazing. Well, I'll take you there, and it's fantastic. It just shows also how the whole category has evolved. This is almost like fine dining, but in a fast casual setting. Because Alex Seidel, who's a James Beard award-winning chef, he's the chef behind it, and so to see from where we started about teaching people what a foil burrito looks like, and now we're doing this, and it's elevated there. It's really cool to watch, but also the food's just addictive as can be. And it's all turned on spits with a whole charcoal fire. Everything's cooked over fire. There's not even a gas line in the restaurant.
Really?
Wow. It's all that's like flying without a safety chute.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
But in Kansas City, I'm one of the last people that still wants to go to Gates.
Have you been to Q39 yet? Yeah. I really like Q39 here.
I think it's exceptional, but there's something that goes back to where the laminated, really thinly sliced stacked meat with the handprint on the white bread and the sauce. I think the whole category has really evolved, but that's one of my favorite things to still go back and try that. But Q39 is awesome.
So funny story, when I moved to Austin, I didn't realize it. I mean, I did quickly, but the barbecue in Texas is not the barbecue in Kansas City.
Oh.
And I remember going into Kreitz's out in Lockhart, and I remember ordering barbecue, and it came to me on a piece of brown butcher paper. They just slapped it on the butcher paper, and I asked where the sauce was, and they didn't have sauce. They had a couple bottles they could, but I'm just like, oh, okay. So all dry rub, no sauce.
Yeah.
So it's good to be.
Yeah. Or I'm like, why is everyone cutting these big hunks of
Exactly.
stuff? It needs to be thinly sliced.
Exactly. I remember that going, okay, I'm not in Kansas City anymore. Yeah. So, but no, I love Q39, but I'll absolutely let you know when I'm coming out there. I'd love to try chick.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are you doing right now, Dan?
I'm kind of doing what I was doing before I started working for Chipotle. After I went to work Noodles and Company and then helped turn them around and take them
absolutely.
Public. And then after that, I was burnt out. So I went to Europe for 6 months, came back and said, I don't want to work for another chain anymore. And I interviewed around and I'm like, it's just not working for me. Probably because I was spoiled from my past.
Of course.
And so that's when I'm like, but I want to help people grow. I like fixing things and growing things. So that's when I went back to my old model of a kind of a virtual agency to where it's called Call Fogarty. And that is what I want people to do. That's what clients do, is when it's like, if they run into a problem, they call Fogarty. But so I have a team of people, actually all the same team that wrote all of the headlines and design. Mark Terry, who did all the design, right. We're still working together all these years later. And we just kind of pull together, and I have a video guy named Jeff Siebert, and then we work with Jeff Harrison sometimes. We bring in stuff. So we kind of served as this kind of like a virtual marketing department or outside marketing department. And I like to work with growing chains. That I like to work with the founders saying, what are you trying to do? Let me help you go through this. Let me put all these pieces and give them all those years of experience that they normally couldn't afford if they hired someone full time.
Totally.
So I like to work with the founders to kind of bring them, perfect it, say, do this, don't do that sort of thing. And it's kind of like producing a movie. I bring the team together. We do just what it is. It's not a full-time agency, so you're not paying for those people. Then we pull in who we need to. And then when the movie's over, we send everyone back home, and then we get together for a sequel when we need it. So I
love that. I love your tagline on your website. I think it's I like to work with cool companies to develop cult brands or something like that.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I love that. They've already got something that's really special and cool, and you're helping them kind of take it to the next level.
It's just like, how do we amplify what they're already doing, or help them kind of turbo it on the way up there. So it's kind of a little bit of everything. When I was interviewing chains, just the whole advertising and branding world has changed so much. It's just not fun anymore, because now it's all transaction based and how many conversion rates you get and boosting. No one's building brands anymore.
No.
They're just doing transactions, and so I think that's how the world's changed. So I'm still trying to kind of do that.
I've had the same experience operationally. I've been consulting for the last few years, and what I realized is there's a big disconnect out there in the marketplace between what companies say they want to do in terms of building culture and what they're really willing to do to build that culture, and I'm just like, kind of the same way on the operations and culture side. Is like, do you really want to build it? Because I'm not sure that you do. But if you do, I can help you build it, right? But very much like you, a lot of the chains out there that say something, it just doesn't pass the litmus test, and I'm not interested in being a part of that. And again, what I like to say is I think that, Chipotle ruined me in the best way possible, in terms of I know what it can be. I know what it should be. And I know you can do that without a lot of money, as we've clearly established. And it's just, are you willing to commit to that? And, and I realize it's a different market, and, things are different today, and, all just everything we've gone through over the last year. But I still believe that that it can be done the right way.
Yeah,
I do.
that's good. That's cool that you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So as you think about everything, and this is a great question to ask now, as you think about your experience and all the cool things you've done over your career and now what you're doing, which is awesome. What is something you wish you'd have known maybe 20 years ago that you know now that might have helped you?
I wish I knew finance and numbers better. I paid a guy $40 to take my Math 001 class in college. Is my final. So I've been avoiding numbers all my life.
Got it.
And I wish to hell I had some sort of accounting and finance training. Now I'm in numbers all the day, every day, but right. I just really wish I had that sort of foundation. When you learn that, then that gives you superpowers.
Yeah.
To figure out problems. A lot of what I do is figuring out intuitively of stuff, but now I use numbers to help kind of figure out those issues.
Using data. Yeah.
And I wish I had that sort of background. So
right.
As well as I wish I was a waiter. I never was a waiter, and everyone has that training, and to be able to balance trays.
Right.
I think that is I run away from that now, but I wish I had that experience when I was younger.
That's awesome. When you look at the industry and, again, obviously, we've all been through a lot over the last year as an industry, but what are you curious about right now? What are you thinking about that, is on your mind?
I think right now, the biggest problem I see is there's too many restaurants. That there was a period there, particularly around when I was at Noodles, that private equity jumped into everyone. Everyone wanted to be the next Chipotle. And so they funded a tremendous amount of mediocre concepts that just flooded the market. And so it kind of killed the category a little bit, but also there's just too damn many restaurants. And even we've become such a food culture,
right,
that successful guys, and you've seen it kind of go like this and down in Kansas City, that someone builds a successful restaurant and they go, now I want to do chicken, and now I want to do tacos. And then all of a sudden they're adding that, but then there's just too many restaurants because there's not that many going away. And so everyone's just chopping up the pie
right
into thinner slices. And it's the pie's grown some, but not enough. So
do you see that
all the
changing?
private equity firms kind of all left the space pretty much.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Do you see it kind of regressing maybe and getting back to where there's fewer players in the market? Do you think that'll change over time? Do you think it'll get back to more how it was?
Yeah, it has to, first of all. And we've seen that besides just the fact of not finding anyone to work, right?
Correct.
But we've also lost a whole category of sous chefs and guys that are talented that they won't let them in the country anymore, but they were always our backbone. So that whole part is missing that's out there. But really, I think what happened was all these private equity firms went in, they sent all of these chains out and expanded all over the country, and then they all left the market.
Yep.
So now what you're seeing is all of those weak ones are all dying off. And now the people that are still operating in this space are going on and they're like value shopping, and they're picking up stuff for cents on the dollar from what it was. And right. they're kind of stripping them and making them, taking all of the cost out of them. So I think there's going to be some shrinkage that's going to be there. And I think there's going to be shrinkage on the independent restaurant level too. I work with a lot of fine dining restaurants. Everyone is hurting. And everyone can't find enough people to even open some places.
Right.
And so I think that's going to be with us for a long time. And it's not just because people are on unemployment.
Right.
That is certainly a factor, but really there's just too much.
Yeah, no, 100%. I could not agree more. What is something, when you think about your career, what's something that technically maybe on paper you would say this didn't go very well, but with perspective, you realized whatever that was actually made you better today? Like, what's something that you failed?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest mistake that I learned that changed everything in my marketing philosophy, if that counts as something. there
Absolutely.
was, when we expanded first around the country, again, this was the first time I was on the client side. I